agenda. This presentation will include a welcome and introduction, an overview of transportation alternatives. They will go through Miami-Dade's TPO transportation alternative process, the new FDOT transportation alternatives application, the grants application process. There will be time for question and answers, and then we'll go through the 2050 long-range transportation plan update. And then after everything's completed, we'll adjourn. Now I'm going to pass it to Francesca Taylor, who will be starting off the presentation.
Thanks again. So just wanted to do a few welcome and introduction. I know we have a lot of people here, so I'm just kind of limited to TPO and FDOT staff for this morning. And then when we get into questions and answers, or when you have a question, I'll just invite you to introduce yourself at that time, say your agency and then your question, and then that might help with kind of continuing to move the agenda along. So again, welcome for the 2023 Transportation Alternatives or TA program workshop. I am Francesca Taylor with the Miami-Dade TPO. I am the program development manager here, and I'm joined with Vanessa.
Hi, I'm Vanessa Spadafora, and I am the in-house consultant with the Miami-Dade TPO.
And then online, I think we have TPO members as well. Chris. Chris, you're on mute, by the way. Okay, we'll give.
Yeah, sorry. Good morning, everyone.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Welcome, and we can go to the next slide.
Oh no, I'm still doing introductions.
Oh, I'm sorry. Chris Rosenberg, TPO, Chief of Transportation Planning. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. I think that's the only other TPO staff. All right, I think that's it for TPO. And so we also have FDOT, Jessica.
Hi, I'm Jessica Becalindo. I'm the local programs administrator at District 6.
Alina Brito from the Florida Department of Transportation, lab coordinator.
Okay, and I think we have a few FDOT staff online. I saw Antoinette.
Morning, Antoinette Adams, FDOT Program Management Administrator.
Awesome. Is there anyone else from FDOT joining us online?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. I don't know if you can see me. This is Andre Goins. I'm the consultant engineer with the FDOT Local Programs Office in District 6.
All right. Thank you so much.
I don't know if you heard that, but
yeah, it was a little.
I'll say it again. Andre Goins, consultant engineer, FDOT Local Programs, District 6.
Okay. Thank you, Andre. Thank you, Antoinette. And are you able to hear us clearly here in the room?
Yes, I can hear you fine. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So we're going to keep moving forward. So first, we want to start off with an overview of the Transportation Alternatives program and application deadline. So the 2024 cycle of the Transportation Alternatives cycle is really kind of governed by the IIJA, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. It helped increase the allocations of the TA program. This program has been around for a while and through many different transportation bills, but it has been reauthorized and the allocations have been increased. And it mainly focuses on the funding for multimodal projects. So this can include recreation trails, and we'll get into some of those specifics in the next few slides. So this is, we have officially called for the applications for this cycle. I believe that happened last week on the 6th, and you have until December 6th to return your applications for this program cycle. These projects are typically programmed for the 5th year of the tentative work program. However, where there is availability, where there is readiness, projects can be advanced. And that's subject to, again, funding, availability, and readiness of the project. So, as I mentioned, the application deadline for this year is December 6th, 2023. And this program is actually administered through the Department of Transportation, District 6. And for the TPO's process, we help to prioritize the projects as we receive them with our committees, our BPAC and citizens committees as well. Just wanted to let you know that the applications must be submitted through the GAP grant application process. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. In fact, Alina will walk you through a step-by-step of how to use GAP, so you'll be familiar by the time you leave today. And information for the availability is online, of course. So let's talk a little bit more about how the TPO kind of interacts with this process. So first, what I'm showing you are some of the eligible categories. As I mentioned, this particular pot of funding mainly deals with multimodal transportation infrastructure. And so here are some of the things that qualify as projects. So you can do on and off-road facilities, bike, ped, and other forms of non-motorized transportation, construction of safe routes for non-drivers, this is safe routes to school, safe routes for adults and for older Americans with disabilities. The conversion of railroad corridors for trails, so rails to trails conversions, turnouts, overlooks, viewing areas. You can see a lot of these with kind of parks, community improvement activities, which can include the removal of outdoor advertising. This is an addition for a few years back that actually helps control the billboards. Historic preservation and historic transportation facilities is little known, I guess, activities that fall into this category. Vegetation management practices to help against invasive species and erosion control. And then some archaeological activities are also applicable. And going to our next slide, a few others that are applicable are environmental mitigation activities, safe routes to school. So this can actually be safe routes to school infrastructure related projects and non-infrastructure related projects, as well as helping to fund the appointment of a safe routes to school coordinator. That's, again, something that was new out of the last few years. And then the planning, design, and construction of boulevards, and this is on the state interstate system. And then recreational trails, as formerly under the Recreational Trails Program. And a new addition for this year is vulnerable road user safety assessments. So if you're doing kind of those road safety audits, those types of activities also are eligible. So moving further along, we want to kind of stress what our general criteria is for selection. No more than $1 million of TA funds will be awarded to any single project. So for each project that you submit, it has to be a maximum of $1 million that you're asking for from the TA program. Your total project could be $5 million, but the total that you're asking for from TA is capped at $1 million. You can apply for more than one project. However, you can only apply up to 3. And when you do that, you must rank your priorities. You must say which is your priority 1, 2, and 3. And so your application package should include a completed application, applicable exhibits, and we'll talk about that a little bit more this morning. And then we must identify, right-of-way needs, easement, environmental and cultural resource analysis, and any permitting requirements. So, as I mentioned before, the TPO has its role in this process by helping prioritize the projects that we think kind of align to the broader county-wide transportation network. So you have a total of 250 points for the projects that you submit. 125 of those points, half of those points are allocated from the TPO. Another half of those points are allocated from the Florida Department of Transportation. So you're probably asking, well, how does that break down? Great question. So for the TPO, this is how we break those points down. One, we want to understand if you're improving safety for bicycles and pedestrians. We want to understand if you have linkages to transit stations, be it they existing or future on the Smart Plan network. Then we want to understand if you're enhancing mobility for any disadvantaged groups, children, elderly, economically disadvantaged, etc. And then we want to know how much local funding are you contributing, how much skin do you have in the game. Then other neighborhood or community quality of life improvements, are you helping to perhaps increase air quality, things of that nature. Next, we're of course asking how much community support you have for this project. And once we combine all of those scores, we actually see what ranks the highest, and the highest projects get a prioritization score. So from the first few sets of numbers, if you are already ranked number 1, then you get a high prioritization score. So that kind of helps solidify your place in the ranking. And then next, this is FDOT's evaluation criteria. And they are looking for project feasibility, past performance, lab certification, and then your funding contribution, which breaks down to different percentages. And at this point, I'll turn it over to Jessica.
Awesome. So can we go to the next one? So Jessica, I'll be discussing the application, going into the requirements. I know it's a lot of information, but we will be sharing the PowerPoint after today. So you'll be able to see all this information at a slower pace, at your own pace, while it takes. So our first slide, here's a breakdown of the critical milestones, starting with the deadline, as Francesca mentioned, for the application is on December 6th, 2023. Project PowerPoint slides are due by January 3rd. Presentations, the 12th is tentative of January, as it depends on the amount of applications we receive. I'll go a little bit more into project presentations in the next slide. If we need to schedule on the 12th, we will. If not, presentations will only be held on the 11th. Project presentations are mandatory and they are part of the application process. Not attending will result in disqualification of the application. PowerPoints will be submitted, need to be submitted by January 3rd. We will be reaching out to applicants for these and coordinating time slots as needed. Following the presentations, the TPO will make the recommendations in January to the department, and award letters are anticipated in June, July of 2024. Next slide here. Okay. As I mentioned, presentations are scheduled on the 11th and tentatively on the 12th at FDOT District 6. These will be in-person presentations of up to 5 minutes with 10 minutes for question and answers. This is an opportunity for you to tell us more about your project that may not have been captured in the application. Feel free to expand on areas that may enhance your project or use this time to ask and answer any questions you might have outstanding. Okay, next slide. Thank you. Okay, this is your checklist for the application. First, be sure you're submitting your complete application, answering all the questions involved. Second, do not make any modifications to the template. And third, ensure that funding is available for the proposed project. Remember, TA is a reimbursement program. You'll be paying invoices for the consultant or contractor and then requesting reimbursement from the department. 4, include your cost estimate using the template provided. 5th, if you have any improvements taking place outside of your local right-of-way, make sure you include a letter of support. And last, submit via the GAP system, which we'll go over in a few minutes, by the hard deadline of December 6, 2023. Next slide, please.
Have a little text moment.
Oh, it's not gonna.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear that.
Forgive us out there, we're having a little tech moment. I guess the computer wanted a little intermission. Yes, please.
Which one were we on, the next one?
Next one. Yes, just walk to the next one. Awesome, thanks the next one. Okay, and we're back. So this is what the application looks like. The next slides will go into the components of the application. Keep in mind, this is the same information that's always been requested with just a new look. The new application is very interactive. Do not take it and convert it to a Word document. It's a fillable application. The attachments allow you space to write, and I'll go over these attachments in the next few slides. Next slide, please. Okay, these are all of the parts of the application. I want to specifically point out a few of the items listed, starting with lab certification. So this is where are you with certification? Have you contacted the department? Do you have a plan to become lab certified if you're not already? I just want to point out project location. Please include mileposts and roadway IDs in your application. We're really looking for that information this year. If you do not have those details, please contact FDOT ahead of time for assistance, and we'll gladly help you out in getting those, getting that information. And I here under part 5, that's non-infrastructure. The new application takes infrastructure and non-infrastructure questions into account, whereas the old ones did not. That's another update. This makes it easier for our evaluators to review these projects. If you are completing the application, please make sure you're working with the project manager or the responsible charge if you're already certified and have responsible charge to ensure you're accurately capturing project details. If there's no project manager assigned for this project just yet, just be sure communicating with any engineers on staff and any potential project managers for the project to be sure you're capturing as many details and as much information as accurately and as completely as possible. Next slide, please. Okay, now we'll go into the attachments. These will be included as part of your application. The first upload will be an expansion of the project scope. This should be clearly defined. You also sign the project certification form and include further detail on the items listed as individual attachments. These are all located in GAP. You won't be able to move forward if any of them are left blank. And you'll see once you open the application, attachment 1, attachment 2, attachment 3 with the description next to it. Once you open it, and you'll see a sample on the next slide, and you'll be able to fill out that area. If something is not applicable to your project, there is a placeholder in GAP. You can write non-applicable in the space allowed for typing, and then re-upload that attachment. Please keep in mind, all maps must be legible and clearly depict the project's location. Google Maps or Google Earth are typically used for these, and they are really helpful in defining the project location. Next slide, please. Okay, as mentioned, here's a screenshot of what to look for in the application attachments. These text boxes provide further information on what to include in the attachment. Please make sure not to skip any of these, as the application will indicate missing documentation and you won't be able to proceed with your submittal. When you open GAP, again, you'll see the attachments listed and numbered, and you'll know how what you need to upload and in what order. So it's very clear in that aspect. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is the project certification form. Make sure you're reading the document. This is the last page of the application. This should be executed by an individual assigning authority for the applying agency. It will let you know that this is a reimbursement program and that you'll be entering into a lab agreement to deliver the project. Again, this will be the last page, and it should, okay, yeah, this will be uploaded as one of the last attachments. And now I'll hand off to to Alina Brito, who some of you may already know. She'll be working with you on your submittal and your presentations, and she's gonna go a bit further into the GAP system.
Thank you, Jessica. I appreciate it. Got it. Next slide. Are you stuck?
I'm stuck.
There you go.
All right. Okay, the grant application process, we call it the GAP. These are some sources where if you have any difficulty with the system itself, you can contact them. After you try the first three, which is the phone number, the email, and well, the webinar link is there to give you some tutorials on it. You can always call me and I'll be happy to assist you. Next slide, please. Okay, great. So the system will not accept late submittals. You have to access the system, the application from GAP. You have to register and you can withdraw the application. It'll give you a placeholder in GAP for you to re-upload the application to the same place you had pulled it out of. So if you need access to GAP, you have to go to flgap.com. There's a registration link. I'll go over in more detail in the next slide, but you'll get your user access from there. You can participate in the how to submit an application. That's a webinar that'll help you. If you could go to the next slide, please. Okay. When you request user access, you're going to go to the login page. At the bottom of the screen, you'll see it says request user access. It's very small, but it's highlighted in green. Once you click on that, you'll get this user access form. Fill out the information from name to organization. The information below, do not fill it out. It will trip you up. Once you fill out the information, you hit submit. This will go to central office and they will review your application, and you should receive a password or some instructions to reset your password within 24 to 48 hours. Check your junk mail just in case it's not programmed into your system so that you can access that email. Next slide, please. Once you're ready to get your application, you will access GAP, you'll select grant opportunities, and there you'll see the 2024 TA application. You will hit apply. Once you hit apply, at the top of the screen is going to ask you who are you submitting this on behalf, what organization? Let's say it's Cutler Bay. So you look for Cutler Bay and you select it. Once you select it, the application will appear and it'll look just like this. You'll also have included the announcement letter just for your information. You don't have to re-upload that. And the selection criteria package, that's for your information. That has a lot of details that can help you with the process and the requirements of the program. Your application will be downloaded. On the left side, you'll see download. That's where you download it. And once you get the application, you can either store it in your network files and then re-upload. When you're going to re-upload, you go to the other side of the screen. It says attach. And there you will drop in your documents. You can leave documents in there and work on it before submitting your document. This will hold your document in place. You can remove certain documents and replace them. You have an ability to store them for you. When you're if you're switching documents out, at the bottom of the screen, there's a history. It'll always let you know what the last thing you did. So that'll always be there, which is a really good source for you. Once you're complete with your application and you've attached all your attachments and your application, you should get a green button next to each one, and it's green. It says it's been uploaded. Once it's uploaded, you're going to go to the next screen. Next screen. Okay, so it's very important to understand that this is a federal program. These are not state participation. I think we haven't really mentioned that, stressed that enough. These are federal dollars, so with their federal requirements and state requirements as well. But that being said, here we want to know, what is your project budget? So we need to know, what is your federal participation? What are you asking for federally? We need you to put under federal participation. Do not fill it in under state participation. Your local match will go under local match participation. Once you do that, the total project cost will appear. Once that appears, you go back to the top of the page and there's the submit button. That button will not appear until you have everything uploaded correctly and filled out correctly. If you go down, so you can see that on the bottom of the screen, but can you go to the next slide? So now you've submitted your application and everything has been uploaded. And you see at the top right screen, it says submit. So that appeared. It won't be there if you haven't done everything. If you have any difficulty anytime, go ahead and call me. I'll be happy to walk you through it. Okay? So let's scroll down to the next slide because that'll show where they can store some more documents. So you see where it says history log? Once you start changing or playing with your application, you'll be able to access any information that you had put on there before. You can also eventually delete it if you like. If you have any comments you want to add, you can also add them there under comments. You can add additional documents that are really pertinent only to the project. We don't want anything that's not related directly to the project. If it's a survey or anything that you feel will help your application, by all means, you can add it to the additional documents. When we retrieve the documents, we'll get the entire document. We'll get everything you've submitted to us. Okay? All right. So let's see what's the next slide. Okay. Well, that's all with GAP. Like I said, if you need any help, I'm here to help you. My phone number's on the site, and I can answer any questions, to the best of my ability. We did want to let you know that next year in 2025, we'll be launching a week earlier, October 31st, 2024. So now who's going to take this presentation? Thank you all.
Back to me. I'm back behind the wheel. And so wanted to take the opportunity to let you all know about the 2050 LRTP, the Long Range Transportation Plan that we are currently working through as well. So just wanted to give you all an update, make sure that you're engaged and involved and that we're actually receiving projects from you if applicable to the needs plan. So I'll talk a little bit more about that. So just giving you a bit of background, hopefully you are familiar with the 2050 LRTP process or the LRTP process. And then also the 2050, we've done several workshops to do engagement. So hopefully, we've been to a place near and dear to you. The theme for this year is Smart Map 2050, Mobility, Accessibility, and Prosperity. Next slide shows you the why this is important. So a big part of the Long Range Transportation Plan is the Cost Feasible Plan. This is actually where we have all of the federally funded projects that we anticipate over the next 25 years. And so in order for us to have a project that receives federal funding, large projects that receive federal funding, it must be in the Long Range Transportation Plan. Typically that does not include the TA programs because that happens annually and they're smaller projects. This is typically for your larger scale projects. You're doing a bridge replacement, you're doing a major intersection improvement, maybe even a new kind of new transit line or high-speed corridors. Smart Plan is definitely in the LRTP. So those projects get organized in priority banks, as you see on the screen, priorities 1 through 4, based on when they will receive funding. So just want to let you know about this process and how we want to make sure that your projects on the municipal level are integrated into the plan so that we can ensure that Miami-Dade County municipalities are ready for federal funding. Okay, next slide. So this is an example of that cost feasible portion of the plan that I mentioned. This is a snapshot of the 2045 LRTP. We update the LRTP every 5 years. This is the last iteration of it. So this just shows you a snapshot of how the projects are listed and how they are listed for funding as well. So sometimes it helps to put something in your head when people are explaining it to you. So this is an example of how we show those projects in our LRTP. On the next slide. Pause. Let me see, I remember what my next thought was. So the next slide, I was just going to show you the process that we're in and what phase we're currently in. We've broken up the LRTP over 5 phases. Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah. We've broken up the LRTP over 5 phases: people, performance, projects, priorities, policy. What that means to you is that we are in the projects phase, and so we want to ensure that we are receiving all of your projects. So if we haven't, we've made several all calls, we've sent out emails, we've done presentations to our LRTP steering committee. Again, hopefully this is the first time you've heard of it. I'm actually hoping that you're tired of me talking about it. We would like to receive all of your projects by November 30th at the very least. And your major projects that you anticipate to receive federal funding for, or projects that are regionally significant. I'll repeat that again, major projects that you anticipate to receive federal funding for, or regionally significant projects. If you have a question about it, send it to me. Okay, and then, so I'll send out to everyone at the end of this meeting what we're looking for specifically for those projects. We will need, the facility, the name, to, from, general details, purpose and need. When do you expect to receive funding? What types of funding? How much for those types? Federal, state, local, and then what phase of funding? Be it design, right-of-way construction. How much do you need for each phase? And then that will add up to the total. And if you have a project map, that will make our lives easier as well. Again, all that by November 30th. And at this moment, we will open it up for Q&A on everything that we've just discussed. Yes, sir.
Yeah, my name is Saul Benkole, Manager for Economic and Community Development, City of Opa-locka. Madam Moderator earlier said the max is $1 million is that for each project or combined projects?
For each project, the max is $1 million that you can expect federal funding for. Your project can be more than $1 million.
Yeah, but okay.
But your cap is $1 million that you receive funding for.
Okay, on the local contribution, I said.
Could I jump in on that?
Okay, yeah.
It's $1 million per phase,
Oh, okay.
per application.
Okay.
You can have up to 3 applications per department. Okay.
All right. I mean, we know that transportation affects every aspect of human life. My question, two-part question is on the local contribution. Is it net of 1 million, or it has nothing to do with the max of 1 million?
Oh no, we don't max out what your local contribution.
Okay, all right.
There's no limit to your local contribution.
Actually, the more you contribute, the better you score.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you can get up to 20%.
Oh, yeah, with
20% in your application score.
Okay.
They improve the score.
Based on,
Yeah.
local
Yes,
contribution.
because you're investing in the projects.
Thank you.
Great questions.
Yeah, it was a good question.
Thank you.
Any other questions in the room? I'll see if we have any questions. Do we have any questions online?
Good morning. Morning, Wilson with the town of Miami-Dade. Just a quick question. To whom do we submit and how do we submit our projects by November 30th? To whom and the email?
My apologies, Renee. I'm so sorry. I can hear that you're saying something, but I can't hear exactly what you're saying. Do you mind putting it in the chat for us?
Yes, I will.
I'm not using it now. No. I'm not logged in at all anymore. It's coming to the computer. So who do we submit our projects by 11:30? Okay, yes. So that special all call was for me, Francesca Taylor. I'll show you my contact information. I think it's in the last slide. Yeah. So you can send that information over to me. I'll also follow up via email to everyone who was emailed. And that way you'll have my email address for those long range transportation plan projects. Thank you, Renee. That was a great question. What is the scoring way if no match is applied? So that differs. So Renee, for the TA program, if there's 250 points available, for FDOT's portion, it's a tiered system. And for Miami-Dade, it's really kind of a sliding scale, but you have up to, I believe, 10 points for that. So Yeah, let's see if we can go back.
Go back to
that
the
slide. Oh, sorry. So we're gonna try to go back to that slide so we can explain that a little bit better.
All right, cool, I'll take a look.
And I think there was another question, and I apologize to everyone online, but we're having a tough time hearing you all. So it might be best if you put your question in the chat. So this shows you the and I can yield to Jessica and Alina to explain, but this shows the local funding contribution and how many points you get based on what you're contributing. So
No match would be no.
no match,
Yeah.
no points.
No points.
That's
Right.
easier to remember. And then it goes up from here. And I'm gonna go a slide ahead. Oh, there we go. And then if you see the TPO's evaluation, we have local funding contribution too, and you have up to 2 points.
Right.
So on both, it really just helps if you do put some skin in the game for your project. All right, and I think Caroline had a question. I'm gonna try to wait and see if that comes through.
I have a question in a while.
Yes.
Hi everyone, I'm Karen, I'm with Coltran and I'm doing in-house support for the DPW. On the TPO scoring criteria, I was seeing, for example, quality of life. I was wondering if there's some specific kind of documentation that we should be thinking about submitting to, you know, about things like reducing vehicle occupancy.
I think that's a really good question. It touches on a lot of things. There's, you know, the socioeconomic aspect. So you can look at maybe incomes and age ranges that are affected. Maybe that can help make the case of who lives nearby and who's benefited from whatever the project is. Generally, for quality of life, let's see what it says. Which one is it? Improving air quality, noise, water quality, reducing the need for single occupancy vehicles. So anything that you can do to, I guess, support those type of statements. It might be a little bit more difficult for some of the environmental pieces, considering how quickly you need to turn this project back in. But you can, you know, start to make cases if you're, you know, perhaps reducing the need for single occupancy trips, that does help improve air quality. So, you know, there can be, without real deep scientific evidence, there can be some cases made for how you're addressing it.
That makes sense. Thank you.
I have a question, lady. This is regarding the lab certification. My name is Jenny. I'm with the city of West Miami. I just started there, so I'm not sure if we are lab certified. Now, if we are planning on going through the process of lab certification, would we like select not lab certified, the agency will become lab certified? I mean, hopefully will become lab certified before actual funding takes place. We'll be able to select that and get with you, Alina and Jessica, with getting.
Right, prior, depending on the year that you are looking for funding, let's say you're doing construction and it's in 2027.
Okay.
In 2026, you should start to apply for lab certification. If you're awarded, you know, you don't want to go through a process, you have to have something in the work program in order to participate in lab certification. And only agencies are lab certified, just for everybody's knowledge, not a single person. 1 year before that, you're going to start your lab certification process before the award year, the year you're going to get the funding.
Okay.
Then you would apply and then we'll go through that whole process. And you would probably be, because it's the first time, and West Miami is not lab certified, I just want you to know, would be project specific certification. Yeah.
And piggybacking off of that, now is design also included in the eligibility of funding? So we could be going
Absolutely,
with
design, construction, CDI.
Okay, so we would have to do lab certification before the construction part, or can we
The
begin
year of funding,
the year of funding?
right.
So whenever.
So if you have your design done and you only ask for construction dollars, it'd be 1 year before those construction dollars are taken into effect.
If you're awarded design funds, you'll be certified the year before those funds.
Okay.
Yeah, the fiscal year of those funds.
Whichever phase.
Yeah, thank you, lady.
Questions? Oh, looks like there's another one that came through. This year, the application is requiring a resolution. Will an application be rejected if the agency does not have enough time to get commission approval before the December 6th deadline? Great question.
Very good question.
So we are accepting a letter of commitment from agencies that are not able to get the commission approval before the deadline. It is a month. We're aware that that might not be enough time to go through the process that a resolution requires for your agency. But if you can provide a letter of commitment, and give us an indication of where that resolution is in process. So if you have to go to a committee or at what point you are in creating your memo, just give us some indication of where you are in actually getting that resolution executed. And then the letter of commitment should be signed by someone with signing authority for your agency. We just want to have a confirmation that the agency is committing to the project in the event they are aware of the funds.
Okay, we have another, hopefully that answers the question. We have another question that popped in. Oh, a few others that are popping in. So Valentina, what would be the evaluation criteria and max points for a non-infrastructure proposal? I'm not sure if I understand.
Well, I mean, all evaluations are based on their scope and, all the information they can provide in the application. And then at time of presentation, they also get scored at that point. So it's kind of the same process as, infrastructure, non-infrastructure.
Okay.
There's just some components that wouldn't apply, but no, we'd be able to, evaluate the process of the project,
That's a good point, because I forgot that there's safe routes to school, non-infrastructure.
Right,
So yes.
right.
Okay, so next question is, for construction projects, is designed to commence 1 year prior or 2 years prior to construction?
That was for 2 years prior.
Okay.
There's a lot of reviews that have,
Yeah.
you still have to get it reviewed, whether it's locally funded or
Right.
or federally
If there's
funded.
federal funds on the construction, it'll
Right.
be reviewed as well.
Right.
So Valentina's question, so I guess related to the non-infrastructure proposal, you will still have up to the 250 points, but you would just be scored as it is applicable. So nothing would really kind of count against you, because we're looking at the feasibility, past performance, and lab certification and funding contribution at that side. And then the other side, we're looking at, whether it's safety, languages, all of these things. So you still be scored as the 250, and you're not necessarily at a disadvantage if you're doing a non-infrastructure project. But really good question.
Very good.
And Caroline out there, I think I heard you chiming in, but I apologize again. I didn't hear anything. Are you able to put anything in the chat?
With regards to the applications, and there's an attachment for the scope, we're really looking for not so much a project description, but real details of which actually is going to take place in the project. A project description kind of captures what it benefits to the community and how you came about getting this project, and kind of like telling us a story about the project. But when it comes to scope, we really want to know as much detail. What are you looking for in that project? What are you going to construct? What are you going to build? What is it? And the schedules too. Also, schedules are very, very important for us. We need a good schedule. So whether it's design, construction, we still need a schedule. When you anticipate starting, ending, and what happens in between. This is critical for us to evaluate your projects.
Well, that's why we ask that you work with engineers on staff and potential project managers so that you're able to accurately capture a schedule and as full a scope as possible, as detailed a scope as possible.
I mean, by schedule, do you mean the timeline of the phases of the projects?
Yes, and the timelines within that phase, what's happening in that phase, not just when you're going to begin in, but what's happening in between.
Okay.
When you're getting your permits, when you're getting, everything, 30, 60, 90% design, give us detail. The other thing is project public involvement. We're very, it's a very important aspect of evaluating these projects is how much public involvement have
The
you.
workshop to the project.
Yes, workshops, anything you can provide for that, that's also enhances your application.
All right.
Yes, and commitment, public commitment, right, to the project. And public support, absolutely, absolutely. Anything else?
Andre has his hand up. Andre, you can go ahead.
Thank you. I wanted to add just a little bit to what Alina was saying about the scope. When you're adding your scope to the application, please be as concise and complete as possible. We have a situation where a lot of times people want to midstream of their project add or somehow modify what is in the scope, and it can be really not allowed, as this is a competitive process, to make too big a change to your scope. So please be as concise and complete, and perhaps have an engineering project manager look over that scope in your application before you submit it to make sure it is complete.
All right, thanks, Andre. All right, so do we have any other comments or questions out there digitally or in here personally? Okay. Oh, I thought I saw a hand. Maybe not. Okay, well, once again, we thank you all for participating this year in our workshop. We hope that we've been able to answer the questions that you had. I think we can hang out for a little while in case anyone has any questions, but we're just gonna go ahead and officially end the workshop for today. You should see in the next day or so an email from us that just wraps up everything, a link to the recording. Hopefully, if not, we'll at least give you the slides so that you can review them, and we'll follow up on anything that we've mentioned that we've sent out to you this morning. So thanks again and great luck.
Thank you all for attending.
Thank you so much.
We look forward to the applications.
And we're just gonna hang out here in case there are any other outstanding questions.
Any questions, ladies, gentlemen?
Well, the city manager, they called me that they weren't able to connect. If I can get a transcript of what.
This will be posted on the TPO
Okay.
website,
Okay,
so
all right.
yes.
Thank you.
And at any, like I said, you can always call us. We're really
Okay.
happy to help anybody with their application,